Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about our analysis of online engagement with misleading data visualizations. So I'm sure I don't have to convince you of the power of data visualizations, especially when it pertains to phenomena otherwise unseen by the naked eye, such as gradual changes in our climate or levels of COVID-19 in wastewater. But with this power comes a responsibility, since things may go wrong, and this post you see on social media may be misusing data to support misinformation, for instance, about climate change or charts of pseudoscience analysis that form bases of QAnon theories. In this work, we asked ourselves, can social media audiences reliably point out such misleading tactics? There have been numerous studies examining the spread and correction and moderation of misinformation on social media, but they're mostly focused on text and have yet to examine how people share and react to visualization-supported misinformation. And so it's unclear whether what we know about misinformation also applies to visualization posts. In an attempt to learn more about how users assess visualization-supported misinformation, we built upon our previous work, in which we collected and analyzed 10,000 COVID-19 data visualization posts shared on Twitter, and then later categorized and labeled them into common types of reasoning errors. We then supplemented this data from our previous work with a complete set of engagement with these posts, replies, likes, quotes, and retweets. And this new data allows us to look into the following questions, which form the basis of my talk today. Firstly, I'll talk about just how much engagement these misleading visualization posts get and what factors play a role in affecting it. Secondly, through a thematic analysis, we will describe the contents of people's replies to misleading visualization posts. And lastly, we'll put it all together to discuss what data-driven misinformation is and how to deal with it based on what we've learned. Let's start with our quantitative analysis of engagement. Before I describe the results, I want to make a distinction between visualization posts with and without insight. So the chart on the left simply shares the latest coronavirus data without making any argument. The one on the right, however, uses the visualization to argue against masking. So by this definition, only an insight can have a reasoning error. So we asked ourselves whether having this insight or reasoning error plays a role in how much engagement a post garners. Or do people flock to and spread and discuss misleading visualization posts, or do they ignore them? To explore this, we performed a regression analysis. One thing we see as a result is that posts with insight, misleading or not, garner much more engagement, so 60% more discussion and more than double of sharing and liking. They're also associated, on average, with much longer duration, which means they persist much longer on the platform. These results make sense to us as data or visualization accompanied by interpretation is likely easier to understand and invites more discussion. Secondly, we see that posts with a reasoning error gain an additional 60% more replies on average, but not the other forms of engagement. So this is an interesting result that could indicate that misleading posts are shared at around the same rate but have more active discussions. So to explore what exactly users talk about in these discussions, we move on to the second part of our study, a qualitative analysis of replies. We perform thematic analysis of replies, and as a result, we identify 4 themes. The first describes how people attempt to verify data-driven claims. Second talks about how trusting the claim and trusting the visualization are somewhat different dimensions. The next one describes that most data-driven claims are not completely verifiable or falsifiable by any one reply. And lastly, it may actually not completely matter what the data says. So for the purposes of this talk, I will focus on 2 themes, but I invite you to refer to the full paper for details about all of them. So we find that crowds often deeply engage with the insight and can point out nuanced flaws in data interpretations. Through examples of replies to this post, I want to highlight just how multifaceted the responses are. So this post argues that COVID measures are ineffective using a chart of falling cases in Sweden. One reply presents a caveat to the claim. Deaths are likely undercounted, and the elderly are disproportionately affected. Another reply shares an anecdote. Their uncle in Sweden says that people are extra cautious with sanitation, so it might be misleading to state that there are no measures. The third type of reaction is sharing more data. So this reply shares a different visualization that points out that Sweden has experienced way more deaths than their lockdown neighbors. Lastly, some users reinterpret the exact same chart. 5 to 10 deaths per day are still a lot from the point of view of this user. So our takeaway from this theme is confirmation that we might be able to leverage the crowds to assess misleading visualization posts, given enough eyes. In another theme, we describe how sometimes it may not matter what exactly the chart says, and the audience praises or dismisses it for other reasons, such as blind trust in data and its scientific veneer, or audiences' distrust in the source, whether it's unknown or one that they're ideologically opposed to. But also distrust in the author themselves and their credentials. So the takeaway from this is that there are credibility factors in visualization posts beyond the soundness of analysis, which can be hard to look past and lead subsets of the audience to simply not engage with the insight. So armed with these findings, let's now discuss what data-driven misinformation is and what could be done about it. So we can think of statements as points on the spectrum between facts and opinions. Some statements are factual and are either true or false. Others are pure opinions and subjective to an individual. And then there's data-driven insights. On the one hand, they're supported by data, so not a pure opinion. But on the other hand, data is imperfect and cognitive biases exist, so it's not entirely factual either. So we see that two main data-driven misinformation tactics involve trying to pull data-driven insights to one or the other ends of this spectrum. Sometimes they're pulled towards the fact side. This mirrors the common alternative right tactics of fact nostalgia or demonstrative facts. Phrases like do your own research or post-truth or descriptions of good old days when people knew true from false dichotomizes everything into true and false. When pulled to the other side of the spectrum, spurious data insights are used as a way to present scientific findings as mere opinions. An example of this is how the public knowledge about the dangers of smoking has lagged decades behind tons of reputable research. And this is something we observe across all denialist topics, whether it's climate change or vaccine safety. An established scientific consensus is being dismissed as an opinion. So if you could take away one thing from this talk, it would be this. There's a need to acknowledge data and visualization supported misinformation as a unique and nuanced threat. Due to falling in this gray area between facts and opinions, it remains largely unaddressed. The ways to combat it would need to anchor it in the middle of this spectrum. Some ideas that come out of this work include having more flexible reporting options on social media that do not presuppose fact-checking everything, or developing strategies to compile a multitude of caveats from replies into meta-reviews, just like building a scientific consensus. For government and expert-run accounts that share data, acknowledging the need to continuously build trust and transparency, since even a well-performed analysis can go unnoticed if not trusted. Lastly, I'd like to thank my co-authors and invite you to read the full paper. Thank you for watching.